If you're like me or most people that I've ever met, you've done things in your past that you shouldn't have, or you've done things in your past that you regret. So one of the most common questions that I get is, I have a DUI, I have a misdemeanor, I got fired from a job, I have some speeding tickets. Can I still become a firefighter? And the answer is probably yes, but there are certain things you're going to need to do and say through the hiring process to get past those and move beyond it. So in this video, those are the things that I want to address. And if you find this content helpful and you find this content useful, do me a favor and click the like button below, subscribe to the channel, leave any questions or comments you have in the comments section. I really appreciate all your guys' feedback. And the easiest way for me to know that you find this useful and helpful is clicking the like button. So to get right into it, can you still be a firefighter with any of those things? Yes, but there's a few things I want you to remember and keep in mind first. And the first thing is that nobody is perfect. Not you, not me, nobody else out there. Over the course of the hiring process, you're going to have to sit in front of an entire panel of officers at some point. You're going to have to sit in front of a chief, possibly city council, mayor. You may have to sit in front of a detective during your background investigation. You might have to sit with a polygraph examiner. There's a whole bunch of people, and you will inevitably get asked about whatever it was that you did in your past. Just keep in mind that those people are not perfect either. It's easy to get intimidated, and it's easy to feel like, oh my God, I took a pen from my past employer. I'm not going to get hired. Relax. They've all done things they shouldn't have done. And if they tell you otherwise, they're probably lying. Number two, if you're not asked about something, don't bring it up and don't talk about it. Now, that might seem obvious to a lot of you, but I have gotten questions from people saying, hey, I have whatever in my background and they never asked me about it. Should I tell them about it? I feel like I'm hiding something. Don't tell them about it. If they don't ask about it, don't talk about it. You do not need to bare your soul to these people and tell them every character flaw or thing you regret or did wrong through your entire life. That's not what you're there to do. You're there to get hired. You're there to get a job. So if they don't talk about it, don't bring it up. And then finally, if for some reason, let's say you have something really minor in your past and they cite that as a reason that you didn't get hired, truth is, they probably didn't want you to begin with. They probably had their eye on somebody else that they were going to hire. It's a really tough pill to swallow. Trust me, I get it. It's happened to me. But just move on, because looking back 2, 3, 5, 10 years into your career, usually departments like that will pick out little minute things and not hire you over that is a place you don't want to work anyways. So just move on from that and count that as a blessing in disguise. Like I said, I get it. That's a really tough pill to swallow. But I promise you it'll all work out. So the first thing I want to address is felonies. Can you still get hired as a firefighter with a felony? And generally the answer is no. Now I have heard of some exceptions. I think it was, don't quote me, I want to say it was New York or maybe it was Chicago. It was one of the big cities that I had read an article about a year or two ago saying that they had done some initiative and hired some people with felonies. Obviously, a lot of people had very strong opinions about that. I don't know what the felonies were or what the exact details about that were, but that's the only time I've ever heard of that. It's tough to get hired as a felony. A lot of reasons, because the city or the district will just flat out say, if you have a felony on your record, we're not interested. But also, if you become a firefighter, you're inevitably at some point going to have a firefighter certification or maybe an EMS certification, depending on the department you're at, maybe an EMT or a paramedic. And a lot of these state certifying bodies won't allow you to get your license or your certification with a felony on your record. So a lot of the departments that will hire you will be dependent on you being able to get that certification. If you can't get that certification, you can't get hired. So my recommendation to you would be, if you have a felony on your record, talk to that individual department, see if they have a program to get through that or however they would handle that. I don't know. You'd have to speak to that individual department or district, but generally speaking, it's going to be really hard for you if you have a felony on your record. Misdemeanors. Let's talk about misdemeanors. Misdemeanors, your saving grace is going to be how many misdemeanors you have and how long it's been since you last committed your misdemeanor. Now, obviously, there's a whole range of things, and if you want to know the ins and outs of a misdemeanor 1 versus a misdemeanor 2, 3, 4, however, you're going to have to talk to an attorney about that. I'm not your guy. And if you really want to get minute, you're going to have to speak to the individual department. Maybe you have a misdemeanor, whatever. Will they still accept that? I don't know. You'll have to talk to them. But depending on what it was that you did, especially if it was something minor, yeah, departments will still look past that. Now, you're going to have to do and say specific things to get beyond that, and that's what we'll talk about later on in this video. But yeah, time is going to be your best friend and the amount of things that you've done. If you have 10 misdemeanors in the last year, forget it. Chances are you're probably not going to get hired. You're gonna have to put some time between you and those bad choices. Finally, dumb stuff. I throw dumb stuff as a category of things that you did maybe when you were in high school, or maybe you did them while you were in college, things that you regret. Maybe looking back, yeah, it probably wasn't the best decision, but it is what it is. It happened. How do I get past it? Things like you got fired from a job. Maybe you got a DUI. Maybe you smoked pot a handful of times and they're asking you about that. Is that a big deal? I don't know. Different departments have different views on that. How do you get past those things? Well, first of all, you can still get hired with a history of dumb stuff, okay? Like I said, every single firefighter you will meet has done dumb stuff at some point in their past. You can get past it, you can move on, but let's talk about that now. If you have done something that you regret, it will inevitably get brought up in some form, whether it be during your background investigation, maybe if you have to do a polygraph. And I have a video about polygraphs if you're interested in that, and I'll be updating it here soon. So look in the video description for this video if you're interested in polygraphs. That's something you have to do. But yeah, you're going to have to talk about that during your polygraph or your background investigation. You'll probably have to talk about it in your interview. You may get asked about it. So what do you need to do to get past it? Two things. Number one, and the utmost important thing of this entire video, if you forget everything else in this video, that's fine. You have to take responsibility for whatever it is that you did. If you try and pass the buck onto somebody else, or if you try and shrug it off and not talk about it or pretend like it's something that, yeah, I did it, but it was somebody else's fault, it really wasn't my fault, they will pick up on it and they will have zero interest in hiring you. As a firefighter, you will have to take responsibility for yourself and your crew. So if during the interview process they pick up and they sense that you're trying to pass the buck or pretend like it's not really your fault or not take ownership of the mistakes that you've made, it is not going to go well. It will not reflect well on you, and you may or may not get hired. So number one, take ownership of what you did, dive in head first and just own it. Number two is you have to articulate to them through your actions what you did to fix the problem. What do I mean? What I mean is your words are useless with no action behind them. It's like if you discipline a kid and you tell them, hey, go apologize and say sorry, and they just say sorry and shrug it off and go on about their day, everybody believes that that wasn't real. Same thing here. If you have, well, let's use the DUI example. Let's say you have a DUI and say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but that was a couple of years ago, no big deal. Well, what have you done to show that you won't do that again? Maybe you have completely stopped drinking ever since. Maybe you went through a new driver's ed program or some DUI awareness, or maybe you did some sort of community service. Talk about what actions you took that showed the lesson that you learned from whatever mistake you made, whether it be you got fired from your job, whether it be a DUI, whatever it is that you did, you need to take ownership and you need to take responsibility, and you also need to show through action. Action is king, and those will be the two most important things to get you beyond this and I'll give the officers of this department enough trust in you to still hire you moving forward. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found this useful. If you did, click the like button below, subscribe to the channel, leave any questions in the comments. Oh, and one more thing. I get a question a lot about if you have a record, if you have a criminal record that's sealed, should you still reveal that? I don't know. You'll have to talk to your attorney, but what I would recommend to you is that whatever the instructions for that city or that department, whatever they say you need to do, if they say, even if you have a sealed record, you need to disclose it on here, I would still do that. But again, I'm not an attorney. You'd have to talk to an attorney to find out the exact answers about that. But my recommendation to you is follow the directions of whatever department you're trying to get hired at. So again, if you like this, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.